Hi folks, welcome to your Planning Outlook that's updated on Friday evening the 4th of December. Winter has very much arrived across the mountains in the last few days, and it will stay cold through this weekend into the early part of next week at least. Quite complicated once we go further ahead. Many indications though over the next few weeks favouring generally cooler, chillier patterns being common. In the short term, we'll see some further snow coming in at times, focused more often on eastern mountains, but spreading westwards occasionally. Some overnight frost, the wind speeds all a bit all over the place. Let's try and pick apart some details then. This is the freezing level chart first of all, and shows you where we'll find the 0 Celsius line. And there will be some local variations. This is a fairly coarse resolution chart, but it gives you a general feel for where the temperature of the air is going to go. Most of the higher mountains then have got snow cover on them, and that will stay in place in the days ahead. We'll be at or just below freezing, above around 800 metres or so quite commonly. Sometimes that snow level may just come down a bit lower than that, and overnight there will be some frost to lower slopes, the valleys and the glens. Onwards in the days ahead, this is through Saturday, we'll go on through Sunday into the start of next week too. Not a great deal changing in that general broad view of where that freezing level lies. Just around some western coastal fringes of Scotland we may lift a bit higher than that. Notice as we go onwards through Sunday night into Monday here, how those freezing level contours really come down. We see a level at 200 metres showing up here. Well, that's the model signal really for frost forming into the valleys and the glens. You could be at practically sea level and see a ground frost on Monday morning. As we go through Monday daytime, that level will lift, but the mountains will stay sub-zero, quickly returning to frost into Monday evening and night into the valleys. And as we go onwards into Tuesday, some interest around this point, because just as the next front just pivots in, maybe for a time that freezing level low enough to see the snow coming back down to lower slopes before, a bit like we saw today, the less cold air drifts back around off the North Sea. We might just lift that freezing level temporarily above 1,000 metres, but the higher mountains across the Highlands most likely staying frozen with snow cover in place. This through into Wednesday, and maybe not much changing even beyond that. Freezing level then hovering still around the 800 metre mark on average. Synoptic charts for the days ahead, and Saturday sees low pressure parked toward the south. It's been a pretty good signal for that for a few days out. The wind flow coming around as an east or northeasterly still, pulling in some areas of snow from the North Sea into eastern parts of Scotland, across the northern side of the Highlands as well, and some areas of frequent snow affecting the hills of Wales and the eastern side of the Pennines. Drier the further west you go into the Lake District, and the tendency for brighter, drier conditions to develop a bit more widely as the day is going on. The strongest of the winds just tending to ease down to the severest of the wind chill early on Saturday. This is the hour-by-hour precipitation from one of the forecast models through Saturday to run you through that story. You can still see there's quite a good cluster across the Highlands. Where it's shaded, it's suggesting snowfall on this particular model chart. I'll skip on fairly quickly through the day, 8-9 o'clock in the morning. Those areas of snow across the eastern parts of the Highlands, across Wales as well. A few flurries coming in onto the Pennines through the middle of the day, but many places seeing a decent amount of dry weather. Extensive precipitation is tending to break up, so it's mostly just flurries, a bit of light rain at the lowest levels through the day. Still, the feed coming in from the North Sea pulls something back in as we go through Saturday evening and night. So across the Pennines, maybe even as far across as the Lake District, there might be some fresh snowfalls on higher ground, with maybe some of that falling at least at times to low levels, but may struggle to stick and would soon tend to thaw at the lower levels through Sunday daytime. And just leaving bits and pieces around, if you like, into Sunday itself. Still a few flurries, though, to come in from the northeast. It's a rather slack pressure pattern. It looks something like that through Sunday. Generally slack low pressure, bits of old fronts still sort of lurking around. That idea of snow flurries focused towards more eastern parts of Scotland, perhaps the North Pennines as well. Some banks of cloud that will be stubborn and hanging around. Some places will get some clearances and some sunshine breaking through, and those temperatures staying on the chilly side. Mostly light winds through Sunday daytime, especially across southern Scotland, England and Wales, but may just hold on to a strong northeasterly, so beware the wind chill across the Highlands, especially further towards the north. It's all very messy as we go into the start of next week. We sort of sit between weather systems by this stage, so that's the scope for a frosty start as skies clear overnight into Monday. A very slack pressure pattern around us, so not too much wind, not too much moving around. The various lows will slowly rotate through the day. Many places may end up dry, a few snow flurries here and there. Some sunshine, some banks of mist, some banks of fog may well be around in places. It's this sort of slack, slow-moving pattern that really starts to make things uncertain as we go further ahead. Subtle changes in which one of these lows begins to dominate will have a big impact on how things develop in the middle of the week. What looks likely is that one of those lows, particularly the one to the east, starts to rotate back in again from the North Sea, a bit like what we've just seen, with some further areas of snow pivoting westwards across Britain on those fronts as they move through. So areas of snow, some sleet turning to rain at lower slopes at times, mostly snow over the highest ground, so maintaining that wintry picture. Risk of wind strengthening for a time as well, especially around the northern flank of that low, a bit lighter the further you are toward the centre of the low. Treat the chart shown here very cautiously for detail. It's the idea though that some further snowfalls may well be in the forecast as we head into Tuesday. That low weakens and sort of falls apart by the middle of the week. Again, difficulty with detail. I suspect there's still some areas of snow flurries around at times. The air is still staying chilly. The wind may be still prevailing as an easterly, although maybe just the hint of turning a bit more to the south or southeast across southern Britain. Some murky conditions may just be around, so some fog banks across the hills. Locally, you may just get some clearer, brighter conditions, perhaps best favoured toward the western side of the Highlands. In terms of where we go after that, it's treated as cautiously as we dare really at this distance. Many longer range signals do favour chillier times continuing. There may be a bit of back and forth that develops as we head into the middle of the month. This just off one of the forecast model sequences later on in the week. There's areas of low pressure out over the Atlantic and further little lows trying to develop themselves away well to our southwest over the mid-Atlantic through the second half of the week. It's all quite averaged out on this chart. The signal that low pressure is nearby, but not really pulling any genuinely mild air in. Most of the centres of the lows that try and develop over the Atlantic do stay more or less further toward the south. We don't import milder west or southwesterly winds in towards Britain. It's just a continuation of the pattern that we've already got, one where chilly air stays in place and areas of snow showers and flurries just circulate around. Some indications maybe just try and bring something a bit milder in later in the week. I'm not quite convinced on the details, but we'll watch how that does develop. I would suggest the overall pattern as we go onwards is one that doesn't put us into an extensive deep freeze, but equally one that doesn't bring particularly mild conditions in for too long. So quite seasonal patterns really, where the mountains often stay at or just below freezing point. The valleys will see some frost overnight, but tend to be relatively milder during the day. Temperatures, say, in the mid-single figures, 5 to 7 Celsius thereabouts. So unlikely to get snow cover for that long lower down, but the snow cover on the mountains staying in place more or less all the way through. So hopefully that gives you a feel for where things are going. Stay right up to date with us, of course, with all your local forecasts updated every day on the MWIS website. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.